Welcome to the Infinite Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, diving right into the viral world of YouTube where MrBeast turned giving into a spectacle. The guy's pulled off insane stunts, from planting 20 million trees to feeding entire cities. He's more than just flashy charity, though. It's a new era where philanthropy meets entertainment. But hold on, not everyone's sold on this blend. Simon, doesn't some of this feel like generosity mashed with a slice of self-promotion?
Oh, for sure, Joe. MrBeast is like that kid who shares his candy only when the teacher's watching. Generosity? Absolutely. But let's not ignore the brand-building brilliance here. He's basically Santa Claus with a camera crew following every ho-ho-ho. That blend, it's like mixing peanut butter and more peanut butter. Great for views, but sometimes, just sometimes, I'm left wondering about the folks without the lens on them, you know?
Simon, that's spot on. We've got to wonder if this spectacle skews our idea of what real giving is. When the camera's off, does the magic disappear? Real charity is about more than just big checks and claps. It's quiet, consistent work without expecting a viral pat on the back. It's cool that he's making giving trendy, but let's not forget the everyday heroes who don't make it into the YouTube highlight reel.
Funny story reminds me of my neighbor, old Mrs. Jenkins. Absolutely no social media clue, right? Every Saturday, she's out there with this rickety table full of lemonade, for free. Just a smile, have a great day, kind of deal. Not a YouTube star, but man, that lemonade and her chats probably did more for my week than any viral vid could. It's those tiny moments, the unsung stuff that stick with you. Not as flashy, but sometimes hits harder, you know?
Absolutely. Those small gestures have a huge impact. It's like power and simplicity, right? So Simon, do you think there's more value in those low-key acts of kindness than the grand viral ones?
Oh, I'm throwing a curveball here, Joe. As much as I love those warm, fuzzy moments from folks like Mrs. Jenkins, I've got to say MrBeast's way has its place too. Hear me out. Those grand viral acts, they get people talking on a scale no lemonade stand can. They inspire folks to think big, dream wild. It's like comparing a birthday candle to a fireworks show. They both light up the room, but one makes you go, wow, and think anything's possible. Different kinds of sparks, man.
You've got a point with the scale of impact, Simon. MrBeast's fireworks show of giving does more than just dazzle. It rallies crowds. It turns viewers into believers and sometimes into doers. People mimic this stuff. They start their own waves of giving. Sure, it's not Mrs. Jenkins's cozy corner, but both styles have heart. They ignite different paths to generosity, proving there's no one-size-fits-all way to make a difference.
Hey, latecomers, catch this. We're chewing the fat over MrBeast, YouTube's very own king of grand-scale giving. This dude's like a charity magician, turning stunts into cash for the masses. There's two camps here. Big, viral acts that get everyone buzzing, and then you've got those sweet, discreet kindness ninjas like your grandma. Both are tossing out goodness like it's going out of style, just on different levels. It's all about making generosity cool again, each in their own way.
Well, let's stir the pot a bit, huh? Think about this. Is the flashy viral approach maybe overshadowing the quieter acts of kindness? Like, are we so hyped on the big bangs of generosity that we're missing the value in those who do good just for goodness sake? No cameras, no glory? It might be cool, but there's a risk it paints a picture that true giving needs to grab headlines to matter. That, my friend, would be selling the essence of generosity short, wouldn't it?
Joe, you're stirring a pot of some spicy questions, my friend. So if I'm following you right, aren't you worried that all this flash might make the quiet givers feel like what they're doing isn't enough? Like, does Mrs. Jenkins start thinking her lemonade stand should be a lemonade festival with fireworks to actually count?
Exactly, Simon. In a world where giving's got to be big and bold to get noticed, our quiet givers might feel undervalued. It's not that MrBeast's generosity isn't genuine or meaningful. It is. But turning acts of kindness into spectacles can blur the lines. The message risks slipping from every act of kindness counts to only grand acts of kindness count. But hey, real talk, it's on us to celebrate both without putting one above the other. Fireworks and lemonade stands alike.
Yeah, I feel that, Joe. It hits a soft spot for me. Like when those quiet moments of kindness fade into the background, we lose touch with something pretty special. Just saying, it's crucial to keep cheering on Mrs. Jenkins and her lemonade stand. Because come on, every time somebody does something good from the heart without seeking applause, that's pure gold, my man. That's the stuff that keeps the world's wheels greased while the fireworks are just for show.
Absolutely, Simon. But let's flip it. Maybe MrBeast throws the mega fireworks because he knows that's what it takes to turn heads his way. Without those viral moments, would we even be talking about philanthropy right now? And think about this. Maybe the spectacle is just the shiny cover on a book that actually has some depth. It could be the spark that gets the disconnected to reconnect with giving, whether big or small. What if we need the flash to find our way back to the basics?
Joe, sometimes the best fireworks shows lead you back to enjoying a simple sparkler in your backyard. It's that jolt, right? MrBeast's flair draws people into the giving game. Maybe being all eyes on him helps us appreciate the humbler stuff too, gets us recognizing and valuing all acts of kindness, big or small. Might just make you wonder, what's my brand of giving and how's it going to light up someone's world, huh?
It's a fascinating dance, the solo spark against the collective bonfire. Speaking of lighting up the world, how about we pivot to another way creators make a big splash? You've got those who go hard on personal challenges and others teaming up, creating epic collabs that ripple across social platforms. It's like MrBeast surviving in a desert versus teaming up with PewDiePie for some shenanigans. Simon, between challenges or collaborations, which one do you think is the ultimate engagement booster?
Joe, challenges are like your solo act headlining the show. You've got MrBeast conquering a desert. That's pure gold in terms of viewers going, can he really pull this off? It's adrenaline pumping, edge of your seat stuff. But then throw in a collaboration with someone like PewDiePie, and boom, it's like mixing fireworks with a bonfire. The heat's different. Collabs have this magic. They blend audiences, stir up the fan bases. So while both are dynamite for engagement, collabs might just have that extra spice of variety. They bring worlds together, you know?
Sure, collabs merge worlds, but don't you think there's something raw about a solo challenge? MrBeast facing off against the elements. That's a storyline packed with grit and character. You're tuned in not for the guest star, but for the main event. It's personal, intense. Collabs can feel like those crossover episodes on TV, fun but sometimes messy with too many cooks. A singular challenge, though, it's a focused narrative. Isn't there something to be said for the purity of one creator pushing limits without any backup?
Man, this one time, I decided to bike across the state. Just me, my two-wheeler, and the open road. Now picture it, sprawling hills, endless skies, clearly a grind. No teammates, no crowd, just Simon versus nature. Every mile was like a mini challenge episode of my own reality show. But here's the kicker. Halfway through, I meet this other cyclist, and we start pedaling together, sharing stories, snacks, the lot. Suddenly, the journey's not just mine, it's shared. Solo, it was a mental battle. Teaming up, the miles flew by with laughs and banter. Shows you how solo trials have their charm, but bringing another into your story, that's when the magic happens.
That's a ride to remember, Simon. That fleeting partnership on the road sparked something fresh for your journey. So here's the question. Could that unexpected pairing be akin to those content creator collabs? Does the unplanned meetup, like your biking story, share that same magic that makes collaborative stunts so captivating for the audience?
Oh, Joe, imagine me going solo on that bike ride as a live stream. Just think about it. Viewers would have been glued to their screens. The unpredictable nature of challenges holds pure suspense. Viewers root for you. They feel every hill you climb, every fall you dodge. It's raw and real. That unpredictability in solo challenges, the one man against the world vibe, that's what hooks people. It capitalizes on personal connection, allowing fans to bond deeply with the creator. Sure, collabs are great, but flying solo, they can't match that level of personal triumph and drama.
But Simon, what if that solo journey hits a rut? Maybe you face endurance's ugly side, viewer fatigue. Challenges are the marathon, sure, but how many miles can fans run alongside before needing a pit stop? Collabs, though, they're the relay race. Fresh legs, fresh faces, they jazz up the scene. You said it yourself with your bike ride. It transformed when you weren't alone anymore. Challenges grip us, I'll give you that, but they have their own finish line. Collaborations? They're a whole season of episodes, never knowing who'll pop in next. They keep the story going and the audience guessing. That is engagement on a loop.
Joe, I gotta hand it to you. Collabs can be like a TV series with killer guest stars. Keeps things spicy. But think about this. The solo challenges, they drive home that uncut creator passion, test their limits, showcase resilience. It's not just entertaining, it's inspiring. Watching someone tackle something colossal on their own has a stickiness to it. You can't look away. When it's MrBeast versus the wild, people invest emotionally in his journey. Sure, it might not have the variety show vibe of collabs, but it digs deeper into the viewer-creator bond. That's what real engagement is, no relay baton in sight.
Point taken, challenges are inspiring deep dives. But isn't the dynamic shift and community vibe of collabs just as potent for keeping fans locked in? Both have their strengths in engaging, but it's that switch-up that maintains momentum.
So, there's this epic game of tag I once played, in the middle of a concert. No joke. Started out just me dodging folks in rhythm to the tunes, slipping through the crowd. It was heart-pounding stuff. Then, out of nowhere, a kindred spirit joins in. I'm it, he's it. We're laughing up a storm, tagging each other and random dancing strangers. Things went from small-scale thrills to a full-blown group escapade. People joined for a few rounds, then danced away. The scene kept evolving. That's the thing. When you can shift gears from flying solo to rolling with a crew, suddenly everyone's along for the ride. Keeps you guessing, like a steady beat dropping wild card remixes. And isn't that what keeps us coming back for more?
Somehow, the most epic things happen when you least expect them, right? It's those organic moments, like a spontaneous tag game at a concert, that stick with us. It starts out as something personal, a challenge or thrill, but then it transforms into a shared experience. It's kind of wild how one moment you're on your own mission and then boom, you're part of this communal story. That's life in microcosm, man. Solo adventures lead to unexpected team-ups, which lead to unforgettable stories. The best parts are always unscripted.
You nailed it. It's the unscripted bits. But let's not forget, challenges hold their weight by testing what one person can achieve. It's that raw ambition and individual perseverance that resonates long after the stunt is done. Collaborations might be a wild party, but a solo challenge? That's the deep, gritty solo album with hits that stand the test of time. It's like having your favorite singer drop a personal ballad, cuts right to the core every single listen. Matter of fact.
I hear you, Simon. There's undeniable power in a solo battle against the odds. It strikes a chord, resonates on a personal level. We see ourselves in those gritty solo performances, facing down our own deserts. They remind us of what we're made of, the strength we've got tucked away for our toughest days. That deeply human element, you can't manufacture that in a high-energy collab. It's pure, it speaks to the soul, a timeless track of the human spirit.
Absolutely. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing your rawest self staring back. So, Joe, do you think that's the true draw then? Finding pieces of our own stories in these individual feats. Do you reckon challenges hit harder because they're mirrors, not just windows into someone else's experiences?
Spot on, Simon. It's about seeing our reflection in their struggle and triumph. Challenges speak to us because they're relatable, or at least show us the heights we could reach if we pushed ourselves. Maybe that's why they hit so hard. They tap into something real inside all of us. Now, considering this deep connection with personal challenges, what other forms of content deeply resonate with audiences?
That mirror of personal challenge we're talking about, it's not always so clear-cut. I mean, take what MrBeast did with recreating Squid Game. Huge production, right? It got me thinking about the ethical side of these real-life adaptations. Are we cool with blurring lines between fiction and reality for views? Or are we wading into murky waters here? What's your hot take, Joe?
Murky waters, definitely. Replicating Squid Game crosses into this spectacle territory where the struggle's entertainment. I'm not sold on that, not when it echoes the darker sides of society. It's one thing to admire resilience in solo challenges, it's another to present fiction's grit as a real-life game. People tuning in for the shock value aren't necessarily engaging with the content meaningfully. What are we really putting out there? Creative spectacles, or just capitalizing on human curiosity gone rogue?
Right. So you're saying that when these intense fictional scenarios like Squid Game leap off the screen into actual contests, we might be feeding on viewers' hunger for the bizarre more than their appreciation for creativity. It's a thrill ride, but where do we draw the line between entertainment and exploitation in these spectacles?
That's the million-dollar question. The line between entertainment and exploitation is thinner than we think, and it's getting blurrier. These spectacles, they pull at something primal in us, but exploiting those feelings, that sits wrong with me. The creator economy thrives on pushing boundaries, sure, but at what cost? We've got to ask ourselves if what we're creating puts value into the world, or if we're just peddling thrills that leave a bad taste. It's touch and go ethically, and the implications need serious pondering.
I'm with you on that, Joe. It feels slimy. Pushing boundaries is one thing, but we can't cross the line where real people might feel like pawns in some twisted game just for hits. Sure, Squid Game IRL could look like genius marketing or boundary-pushing content creation, but underneath the gloss, aren't we kinda toying with the not-so-fun parts of humanity? It's easy money because, let's face it, people love a car crash scenario. They can't help rubbernecking. But creators, we've got to grab the wheel and steer clear of turning human struggles into pay-per-view, unless we want to become the very monsters these shows often critique.
Okay, I'll bite. It's tricky territory, but let's not ignore the devil's advocate angle. Could these Squid Game recreations actually serve a purpose beyond shock and awe? What if they're extreme illustrations of society, pushing us to confront realities we'd rather ignore? Yeah, there's potential for exploitation. I won't sugarcoat that. But could it also be ripping off the Band-Aid, exposing harsh truths under the guise of entertainment? If so, is this really about ethics in content creation? Or are we seeing a new form of social commentary that audiences can't get enough of?
Joe, man, I hear you. It's like holding up a gritty, unfiltered mirror to society and saying, take a good look, this is us. That's heavy. If these shows do force the tough questions, get us riled up about inequality or corruption, then maybe that's a win for awareness. In that light, it feels less like cashing in on shock value and more like staging a protest through art. Gotta admit, it tugs at the heartstrings. Using entertainment as an alarm bell? That's gutsy as all get out.
Here's the thing, Simon. If you can slap someone in the face with a reality check while they're being entertained, you might just wake some people up. Taking gutsy swings at big issues through bold formats is classic human ingenuity. We've always used stories to spotlight truths, but it's like gladiator arenas meet modern-day morality tales. It walks a tightrope. If it gets people talking about the real issues instead of just soaking up the drama, then maybe we're onto something.
Welcome aboard, latecomers. You just dove into the deep end of our pool of thoughts. We're wrestling with this wild trend where games from shows like Squid Game jump off the screen into real life. It's a doozy. Joe and I were chewing over whether these recreations are whistleblowers in disguise, shoving society's ugly bits in our face, or if they're skating on thin ice, exploiting struggles for views. It's all fun and games until someone spells out the nitty-gritty, right? Stick around. We're not done poking this bear yet.
All right, to those just tuning in, we're peeling back layers on these real-life Squid Game scenarios. Let's take the kid gloves off and really dig in, because while it's creative and buzzworthy, there's a but. And it's a big one. Does turning fiction into reality dilute the critical themes these stories originally aimed to highlight? Are creators missing the mark, losing the message in translation for clickbait clout? It skirts dangerously close to making serious issues just another prop. And I can't help but think that's not just irresponsible, it's short-sighted.
Man, Joe, this talk takes me back to when I was a kid. My friends and I built these elaborate forts in the woods, our own little kingdoms. One day we decided, hey, let's set up some challenges, like those game shows on TV, you know? So we did, racing, puzzle solving, harmless stuff. But then Timmy decides to ramp it up, says we gotta raise the stakes. What started as fun turned ultra competitive. Our games got real intense, feelings got hurt. It went from being about building something cool together to just beating one another at all costs. Suddenly, what we had built wasn't bringing us together anymore. It was tearing us apart. Kinda hits home when thinking about all this, doesn't it?
Simon, that's a solid point. The escalation from playful competition to something intense mirrors society's broader transformation, especially with social media and reality TV's impact on our collective psyche. Considering the Stanford prison experiment or the Milgram obedience study, we know situations can spiral out of ethical control quickly when power dynamics are in play. With Squid Game IRL, it gets real. High stakes, big rewards, and mass attention. It's like putting steroids in kids' games. It harnesses the same thrill, but amplifies everything else too. Pressure, risk, potential harm. And unlike our childhood games, millions watch these moments unfold. So yeah, it's relatable, but it's layered now with this global gaze that changes the entire game. Not just fun and bonds anymore. Now it's reputation, psychology, and a whole industry at stake.
No doubt, Joe. When we pump up the volume on these games of extreme stakes, they do more than entertain. They become a spectacle that can mess with real lives. It's the childhood game with an audience that fills stadiums. The rush gets cranked to 11, and the fallout, that's on display too. Makes you wonder, where do we draw the line in this theater we've created? Or is it too late, and the line's already a blur in the rearview mirror? What's your take, folks?
You know, this whole spectacle of Squid Game IRL, it loops back to that fine line between creating content for good versus just for the buzz, which kind of circles us around to MrBeast, doesn't it? This guy's mastered turning viral sensations into charitable acts. It's a revolutionary tack on philanthropy exposed to the social media generation. Wondering if, years down the line, we'll be seeing charity through the MrBeast lens. Could he be reshaping how giving back is done, or is this just a flash in the pan? Thoughts?
MrBeast flipping the charity game on its head isn't just a now thing, Joe. It's planting seeds. Remember how telethons were hot stuff? Call in, pledge cash, feel good. MrBeast is that 2.0 version, but with more fireworks. His blend of showmanship and altruism is catching fire, no doubt. Other nonprofits are already trying their hand at it, mixing viral challenges with donation drives. This could be the new face of fundraising, like crowdfunding 2.0. It's not all glitter. There's genuine good sprouting up here. So future trends? Think digital philanthropy carnivals hosted by personalities who can both entertain and tug at heartstrings. And it might just stick, because let's face it, we love a good show, especially one with a heart. MrBeast isn't changing charity, he's rebooting it for the TikTok age. Entertain first, do good second, win-win.
But hold up, let's not get too starry-eyed about MrBeast's impact on charity. There's a flip side to this coin. Sure, he's got a knack for making generosity entertaining, but is that sustainable? We've seen trends fizzle out as fast as they fire up. And real talk, not every good cause will attract a showbiz savior or go viral. Most charities aren't about spectacle. They're grinding it out, day in and day out, often without fanfare. Here's the rub. Could this influencer-led model create an expectation where if you're not flashy, you're forgotten? Charity shouldn't be just another popularity contest. Donating because you're entertained versus believing in a cause, it's a fine line between philanthropy and performance. And if we're not careful, we might blur the essence of giving back beyond recognition.
Joe, you just hit a home run of truth right there. What MrBeast is doing, it's magic for the moment, but real charity? That's not a one-hit wonder. It's something else. It's boots on the ground. You know, the everyday heroes grinding without spotlights on them. The quiet givers. If we start relying on stunts to open wallets, what happens when the next trend pops up and charity isn't the main act anymore? We risk forgetting why we're giving in the first place. Charity morphing into a show. We can't let that be the new norm. Giving has got to come from wanting to make a difference, not just from seeking the next dopamine high from some viral vid. So yeah, I feel that sting too. It's great so long as it's helping now. But what about down the line? It's like setting firecrackers off to light up a room. It works, but only for a flashy second. We've got to keep a flame burning that lasts longer than just the trending page.
Don't forget, Simon, dramatized charity sets a crazy high bar. After this, what's next? Donating only when there's drama? That's like eating only when the chef's a celebrity. It tastes great now, but will we starve when the stars step out of the kitchen?
Oh man, your chef analogy reminds me of a bake sale we organized back in high school. It was for local animal shelters, right? So my friend, let's call her Lisa, she pulls out all the stops. Cupcakes that could be on magazine covers, cookies shaped like every animal you can imagine. It was Great British Bake Off meets Animal Planet. The works. Day of the sale, Lisa's treats sell like they're made of gold. Next to her, there are these humble brownies whipped up by this quiet kid, Kevin. He's not showy, no flair. Just honest to goodness, delicious brownies his grandma taught him to make. But Lisa's flashier spread is stealing the show. Here's the kicker though. After it ends, it's Kevin, not Lisa, who keeps baking those brownies monthly for the shelter crews. No applause, no viral fame, just steady, heartwarming support. Now, I'm thinking about charity jazz hands versus constant kind acts, big bursts or lasting burns. Can't we figure out how to appreciate both?
Absolutely, Simon. The story about Lisa and Kevin is a classic tale of flash versus substance. But looking at MrBeast's influence on charity, it's not all just Instagrammable moments. He's opened the floodgates for massive engagement. It raises the game for visibility and urgency in charitable giving. Yet here's the snag. When the theatrics fade, are we leaving charities high and dry? This sets up an expectation that generosity needs to be glamorous to matter. If this becomes the benchmark, then what happens to the Kevins of charity, those who deliver without the dazzle? We risk overshadowing the heart of charity with these emotional roller coasters. It makes you wonder if we're training society to only respond to charity like it's a hit of serotonin, not as a duty or from empathy. Sure, at the moment, it all looks grander than life itself, but true charity shouldn't need a leaderboard to matter.
Spot on, Joe. MrBeast's charity antics are something to behold. It's like watching live-action fireworks with a side of feel-good. Definitely ramps up the engagement and gets people exposed to making a difference. So here we stand, at the intersection of philanthropy and entertainment, watching as one guy makes waves in this big old pond. The question lingers, will his splash be just another momentary ripple or the start of a whole new tide that could lift all boats? Where charity waters flow next? Well, that's still an open sea. What do you think, listeners? That sea she changing?
Diving into collaborations, influencers today are practically navigator-in-chiefs, steering their personal brands through a sea of partnership offers. But here's the rub. Not all that glitters is gold, and some of these deals can sail you straight into murky waters. Ethics play a massive role. Are you endorsing something that truly aligns with your values, or are you just chasing the treasure? Let's talk about what really should guide an influencer's moral compass when they're picking their battles and their brand allies.
Navigating the influencer brand collaboration route is real tricky business. An influencer's rep is their bread and butter. Mess that up and it's game over. So, ethical considerations? They're critical. First off, there's transparency, like wearing a sponsored tag loud and proud. No room for sneaky stuff. Then comes authenticity. If you're vegan but promoting meaty snacks just to pocket some change, your cred's gonna tank faster than a lead balloon. And let's chat about greenwashing. That's when brands pretend they're Captain Planet, but are more like Hades for the environment. Influencers gotta be Sherlock Holmes here. Dig deep, push past the eco-friendly jingles to see if they're legit. Been cases where collabs hit the fan, like that infamous festival on an island, you know the one. Looked fab until it flopped. Total disaster class in trusting without verifying. Then there are golden collabs that serve as benchmarks, authentic fits, message aligns right, and there's positive impact all around. Those are the North Stars in this space. Bottom line, it's a minefield, but tiptoe with ethics as your map, and you'll find the right brand treasures to hoist up your flagpole.
The right collab can turn an influencer into a legend, but back the wrong horse, and it's like getting voted off the island in flames. One false move, buddy, and you're toast.
You've nailed it, Joe. Picture this. Influencers are like those tightrope walkers at the circus. They've got to balance on that thin line between cool content and cashing in. Pick a collab that matches what you're about. It's gold. Clap, cheer, roses at your feet. But lean too much into just grabbing the moolah, whoops, down you go, and the net's not there. Truth is, followers can smell a rat from a mile off. One whiff of a dodgy deal, say championing eco-friendly bottles one day, then guzzling from plastic the next, and it's an unfollow spree. You gotta walk the talk, right? An influencer's gotta be part marketer, part moral compass to keep on the sunny side of social media street. Long story short, do your homework before teaming up. And ethics? That's your safety harness in this high-flying act.
But let's pump the brakes for a second. Sure, an influencer needs to pick deals that sync up with their vibe. However, isn't it curious how quick we are to judge? Say an influencer who's all about sustainable living takes on a fast fashion brand, but directs the spotlight towards their eco line. Are they selling out or cleverly shifting narratives from within? We're handing out black and white verdicts in a world splashed with gray. One slip up and social media judges you more harshly than a final round on some talent show. Maybe influencers should get some slack, play both sides to shake up the system. Not saying throw ethics out the window. Just, hey, let's not forget, influencers are trying to juggle staying true with paying rent. How about some real talk on that balancing act?
You're telling me, Joe. It's like they say you can't mix business with pleasure, but influencers over here trying to blend ethical stances with profit like they're some sort of high-stakes bartenders. Mixing up morality martinis, 2 parts integrity, 1 part sponsored content, and just a splash of existential dread, shaken not stirred. And if that drink ends up a bit murky, the internet's there, ready to boo, louder than karaoke night at the local dive bar when someone's off-key. Cheers to that tightrope walk.
Hey, new listeners just jumped into the thick of it? Here's a recap. We're slicing through influencer brand collabs, checking out the moral maze they wander. It's all about wearing your ethics on your sleeve and not selling out for a quick buck. We explored how that sponsored tag isn't just a badge, it's a beacon of transparency. And greenwashing? That's where brands wear an eco mask but aren't really tree huggers at heart. Picking a sidekick in the brand universe is more like untangling headphones. It's gotta be the right fit or you're stuck with a mess. Keep it real, keep it ethical. That's the influencer tightrope walk. Stay tuned as we dive deeper.
All right, new listeners tuning in, picture this. Influencers weighing a brand collab is like a raccoon at a garbage can buffet. They're eyeing that leftover lasagna, but oh, what's this? Organic carrot sticks? Can't just go trash panda on any deal or their followers will catch them munching on hypocrisy with a side of sellout. Influencers gotta pick through the scraps and find those gourmet bits that won't leave them with indigestion. So yeah, onward we march through the sponsor swamp, looking for those clean green lily pads. Keep it locked here, folks.
Hold on a second, though. While we're out here painting influencers as these wise monks meditating on moral mountaintops, let's not forget they're in showbiz, too. It ain't all high horse heroics. Sometimes the raccoons gotta eat. Maybe this buffet ain't just leftovers. Maybe it's more nuanced nachos, ethics enchiladas. What if some influencers are playing 4D chess, taking an imperfect brand under their wing to steer them towards the virtuous path? Sure, on the face of it, they might look like sellouts, snacking on that leftover lasagna. But what if they can turn old lasagna into fresh salad for the masses? We've seen it before. Controversial collabs sparking bigger debates, leading brands to tweak their ways. But when is it genuine change versus clever cover-ups? That's where the real game is at. Let's flip over those green labels and see what ingredients we're really working with here.
4D chess could be the name of the influencer game, Joe. You've got a point. Maybe these influencers grabbing seemingly misfit deals is a way to build bridges, not burn them. They roll up, shake things up from the inside. Could be they're sprinkling some secret sauce that'll morph those brands into ethical eagles down the line. Some food for thought. If an influencer plays their cards right, could they twist the arm of big, bad wolf industries into something more grandma's cottage-esque? Could be. And where does that leave us and the whole ethics enchilada? So much gray in a world obsessed with black and white. Let's keep our eyes peeled. The plot, as they say, thickens. What do you guys think? Are influencers modern-day Trojan horses for change, or just slapping paint on rotting fences? We're all ears. Give us your 2 cents.
Let's sink our teeth into this juicy dilemma. When big bucks beckon, should influencers stick to their value guns or let the zeros add up? Holding fast to your ethos can be pricey, but chase the cash without a moral compass, and you might find your credit account is overdrawn.
So, I remember this one time, Joe. I was hawking merch at our show's booth. You know, the gear with our snazzy logo. This dude walks up and dangles this fat wad of cash for a quick shout-out on air, his product in hand. It's those sketchy health shakes, turns your insides to Play-Doh or something. Now, the greenbacks could have given our little podcast booth wings. But then I eye our fans. Trust in their eyes, belief in what we jabber about health-wise. And there it hits me. Hawk this goop, and I'm peddling more than just powder. I'm selling out, man. So yeah, I passed. Kept my soul sans Play-Doh. Because when all's said and done, can't roll in dough if I bulldoze what we stand for. Am I right? Sometimes values trump valuation, even when the numbers spell out temptation in neon lights.
Totally with you on sticking to your guns. But do you think there's ever a case where taking on less than perfect deals might still align with an influencer's bigger picture? Or should it always be values over valuation, no matter the cause?
Joe, here's a controversial hot take pie coming right out of the oven. Maybe it ain't all cut and dry. So you've got this less than ideal brand, waving a deal complete with fireworks and a marching band. Now, let's slap on some hypotheticals. What if this fat paycheck fuels something grander, like turbocharging charity work or sparking a pet project that's all about the good stuff? We got influencers funding schools, dropping wells in drought zones, using that cash to hammer at bigger walls. So is it value sellout season, or just a slick reroute of resources for the greater good, like Robin Hood wearing Gucci boots borrowed from the sheriff? Some say any gray's too murky, others sling ends justify the means. So where do we draw our value line in the quicksand, huh? Let's toss that spicy meatball across the fence and see which dogs come barking. What do you listeners reckon? Is this game chess or checkers?
The Robin Hood angle's enticing. Snag the bag, then redirect it toward noble causes. But here's a slice of contradiction pie. If your platform's built on certain principles and you backpedal for profit, aren't you risking the foundation of that very trust? Take health influencers as an example. One day they're anti-sugar crusaders, and the next they're shelling out for soda because hydration is key. Plus the check had a couple extra zeros. The audience starts to question everything they've preached. Trust erodes, and what cost integrity suddenly costs followership. Value-driven influence isn't just about standing up, it's about staying up, even when those dollar bill wins are strong. If blowing over means you can plant more trees with the profits, sure, but will anyone believe in your forest when it's grown? That's the real stumper.
It's the classic trust tangle, Joe. Skirt around values for cash, and it's domino day with your rep as the starting block. No one's sticking around to watch you play Jenga with integrity, even if you're building castles afterward.
Here's a slice from the life pie, guys. A buddy of mine had a shot at this major league sports endorsement. Big hype, skyboxes, the lot. This guy was all hometown glory, the kind that turns down big city contracts to stick with the local crew because it's home, you know? So picture this. He's got fans, kids looking up to him, and then comes this deal with a catch bigger than a fly ball at Fenway. The brand? Let's say they're not exactly playing fair in the ethical ballpark. We're talking sweatshops, sewing those pricey sneakers. He winds up walking away, leaving everyone wondering why he'd pass up retirement in Cancun money. But for him, it wasn't about the bank. It was about being able to look his neighborhood kids in the eye, heart intact, hands clean. Sure, he didn't hit the financial home run, but talk about crowd roar. The story of the guy who stood firm outsold any shiny sneaker ad. Sometimes legacy writes its own checks, doesn't it?
But Joe, did my buddy bungle it? Sure, he's the local hero, but let's toss the coin. If he'd taken the deal, maybe he could have pulled a power move, used that clout and cash to rally against those sweatshops, push for fair play all round. Now we got ourselves a 2-for-1 special. Line the pockets and become the change agent, swapping out that ethical quagmire for some good old clean conditions. Because wouldn't you agree, talk without walk is just air? Change needs muscle, and sometimes that muscle is lined with dollar bills. So do you dig in your heels at the first sniff of sketchy, or do you dive into the muck with a snorkel and a plan to clean the pool? That's the real head scratcher, giving our moral compasses a wild spin.
Stats show that trust is the influencer's currency, not just endorsements. In a 2021 Edelman Trust Barometer report, 74% of people avoid advertising, but a Nielsen study indicated 92% trust earned media like word of mouth. Balance, necessary. Look at Tom's. Their one-for-one campaign rocketed sales to the tune of $625 million by 2015 because buyers loved their do-good vibe. Yet look closer. While helping one kid with shoes sounded primo on paper, some argued it disrupted local economies. Here's another tidbit. Cancel culture bites hard. Influencers who miss the moral mark can get hit with boycotts fast, tanking follower counts and partnerships. PewDiePie, mega YouTuber, lost a Disney deal over controversial content in 2017. That said, principles bear fruit too. Colin Kaepernick may have lost an NFL spot over his 2016 Take a Knee protest, but he scored big with Nike's backing, sparking conversations and sales spikes. So while bank balance flexes might seem appealing short-term, long-game winners often play a hand aligned with their values deck.
Makes you think, Joe. It's not just what influencers endorse, but the whole how and why that sets off a chain reaction, like sneezing in a room full of dominoes. One bad tickle, and bam, it all comes toppling down. And let me tell you, rebuilding trust? It's like assembling IKEA furniture with missing instructions and extra screws. Good luck.
Reminds me of a garage band I kicked it with back in the day. We were all about that gritty, honest sound. So here we are, jamming in dive bars for tips and taco money when Mr. Big Label saunters in. He's offering glitz and billboards, but with a catch. Ditch our grunge for bubblegum pop. There we were, guitars in hand, staring down this crossroads. Dollars, dazzling. But trading our soul for synthesizers? Nah. We stuck to our guttural roots, kept the faith with our fan base of 15, including the bartender. Crazy enough, those dive bar echoes caught the right ears over time. It wasn't lightning strike fame, more like a trust fund accumulating interest. That authentic vibe became our gold standard. And as for Mr. Big Label, turns out folks were craving real tunes over manufactured melodies after all. Skip the express lane to stick to our street. And man, what a ride.
All right, Joe, here's the final riff on that. Swinging for those dollar signs might give you a fancy bat, but if it goes against your game, is it worth the cheer or the jeer from the stands? Because at the end of the day, what's an influencer without influence? We kept our sound, and maybe there's a lesson there. When influencers stand their ground, could that be the real moneymaker in the long run? Listeners, time to weigh in. Authenticity versus profitability. Where do you jam?
You know, Simon, we were just jamming on staying true to your sound, right? Let's flip the record. Ever tune into those influencer apologies after a promo crashes and burns? Like, the notes are there, but somebody's playing the tuba instead of the violin? Let's have some fun with it. Slide into the backstage mess-ups that have us both cringing and chucking. All right, listeners, prep for some chuckles as we dive into the comedic world of whoops that influencers face when big unveilings turn into not-so-magical moments. They aimed for champagne-popping celebrations, but ended up with soda fizz in the face. Let's talk about why these mix-ups hit sour notes and what kind of music they should have been playing instead.
All right. Maybe the chuckles need to check out for a minute. These bloopers, they aren't just gag reels. They're cautionary tales with neon signs saying, "This way to Authenticityville." Oh, and there's road work ahead. Like that time a certain someone pitched tents in our living rooms with their outdoorsy endorsement, but got caught enjoying nature from their luxury suite. Sure, we snickered over our screens, but let's holster the laughs and peek through the binoculars at the real target. Integrity and relatability missed their mark. These shenanigans aren't just PR tumbleweeds. They're real knots in the trust lasso that influencers gotta untangle. Brand weddings are sacred. Sell your I-do's cheap. And don't be shocked when the bridesmaids toss rotten tomatoes instead of bouquets. It's tough, Joe, but those hiccups are where we learn to breathe right between announcements.
You nailed it. Each fail is a loud and clear sign. Know your brand, live your pitch. Fake it and your credibility's toast. It's the gritty truth wrapped in a blooper reel.
So, Joe, thinking about these cautionary tales, what do you reckon is the ultimate take-home for influencers? Is it better to dodge a deal that smells even faintly fishy, or should there be some sniff test before signing on?
Absolutely. The take home? Vet that deal like you're a detective in a crime drama. If there's even a whiff of something off, go full Sherlock before you ink up. You spotlight some bloopers. They're not just laugh tracks, they're teachable moments with lights flashing, authenticity road ahead. And let's jazz this conversation up. Ever hear about the face cream that promised eternal youth and the influencer aging like fine wine overnight got exposed for good old video filters? Talk about face, palm. The sniff test isn't enough. You need a whole lab to make sure what you're endorsing won't blow back on you like a science experiment gone wrong. The trick is to stick to your story and know when to walk away if the script doesn't fit. There's a blooper highlight reel playing out there, and it's comic gold as long as you learn to sidestep onto your own stage instead of slipping on someone else's.
This reminds me of a time I nearly belly flopped myself, Joe. Picture this. I'm jazzed to promote this so-called miracle blender, supposed to mix concrete or chop diamonds or something. Did I mention this was back in my gullible days? Day of the big announcement, I'm hyping up this kitchen beast like it's going to change lives. Go live, toss in some fruit, hit power, and what happens? This thing whirs like a tranquilized snail, doesn't blend a banana if its life depended on it. There I was, red-faced, with a chunky mess that couldn't pass for a smoothie in an alternate universe. The moral? If you're selling super blenders, maybe give them a whirl first. Trust me, trying to laugh off a banana blob while live is the kind of lesson you only need once.
Oh, I feel you on that blender blunder. Behind these bloopers, one crucial element is missing quite often: product testing. Take it from what happened in 2017 with a major fitness influencer who sponsored a vegan protein powder. What they didn't count on was their own body disagreeing with the ingredients, live on camera. They intended to demonstrate the benefits, but ended up demonstrating, well, let's just say they needed a quick commercial break. Or how about the time a top tech influencer got all geared up to unveil a state-of-the-art smartphone with supposedly unbreakable glass? The grand finale involved dropping the phone accidentally to showcase its durability, and down it fell, shattering on impact like dreams on a Monday morning. Never tested the feature, they just took the sponsor's word for it. These are more than faceplant moments, they're stark lessons in due diligence. Influencers today can't just be the face, they must turn detective too. Probe that product until you know it better than your favorite movie. That way, you avoid turning your spotlight sales pitch into a spotlight blooper reel for the ages.
And here's a kicker, Joe. Imagine showcasing an unbreakable phone only to split it like an atom on live broadcast. Gives breaking news a whole new meaning, doesn't it? What's next? Edible tech with a side of indigestion?
That's a good note on responsibility, Simon. Speaking of, that segues us into the bigger picture, the ripple effect of influential posts. Remember when one celeb was seen sipping eco-friendly water and suddenly stainless steel bottles became the must-have accessory? Or that time an NBA player wore sneakers from a small sustainable brand during warm-up, instantly launching them into the stratosphere? That's the power these influencers hold. A single post can turn the tide on public opinion, push people to swap habits, even pivot entire markets toward green choices. It proves a vital point. With great following comes great responsibility. When done right, transparency and honesty in those shoutouts aren't just trust builders. They become industry drivers for positive change.
Now, hang on, Joe. Let's pump the brakes for a sec. Sure, one post can unleash an eco-friendly frenzy, but isn't it wild how sometimes we leap without looking? Like that influencer hyping up a green product that turned out to be as eco-friendly as a tire fire? We gotta admit, those shiny posts can tempt us like a late-night infomercial. Suddenly you need that thing you never knew existed. And yeah, seeing big names go green can get the wheels turning towards better habits. But it's also a jungle of jumping on bandwagons. Is it really a pivot toward Mother Earth, or are folks just sticking flowers in their hair because their favorite star did? Crazy thought. Can these influencers steer us towards true north, or is public opinion like a game of Simon Says? Play responsibly. That's where the real change ignites. Transparency should be the star of the show. Otherwise, we're just chasing sparkles in the dark.
Absolutely, Simon. It's a tricky balance, like a game of Jenga with public opinion as the tower. One wrong move and down it goes. Now let's take that thought on a midnight joyride. Where do we draw the line between influence and manipulation? Buckle up.
All right, so back in the day, I got this buddy, right? Total car fanatic. Now picture him scrolling through social media and stumbling across this influencer showcasing a new clean energy car. It's sleek, it's powerful, and heck, it's apparently saving the planet one rev at a time. So what does my pal do? He goes out, trades his old gas guzzler for this electric chariot. Only after throwing all his chips in does he realize the battery life on this thing is like an 80s Walkman. It's just not holding up to the eco dream sold online. Lesson learned, a post can strut like a peacock, but the proof is in the protein shakes you never bought because suddenly they weren't as natural as claimed. It's a tough tango between swaying hearts and leading them astray. You spotlight, that single share from someone we trust can tip the scales big time. Let's drive that Jenga tower close to the edge, but remember, don't knock over truth chasing influence.
That's tough, man. Your buddy gets jazzed by the eco-hype, then gets hit with reality. That's the heartbreaker of this influence game. Folks trust what they see, invest their hard-earned cash, and sometimes learn the hard way that glitz isn't always gold. We're out here threading through a maze where one wrong step can cost more than just dollars. It costs faith in the movement, seeds doubt. These cases? They're loud wake-up calls that the shiny paint job on a post can hide some rusty truths underneath. We owe it to the listeners, our buddies, everyone really, to peel back that glossy veneer and check the engine before we signal all clear.
That engine peak is crucial, but let's not forget, sometimes even with the hood up, we ain't all mechanics. We see this clean machine, it's purring, and we think, wow, someone slapped me a Mother Earth's bestie sticker. But I've got to chuck a wrench into the works here. What about when public opinion shifts so hard it tips the boat over? Everyone's racing to be captain of the SS Eco-Cool without checking if there's even a lifeboat on board. Take, for example, when an influencer hawks some new planet-saving gizmo, right? Half the time, these things come with a carbon footprint the size of Bigfoot himself, but hey, they're stamped with a green leaf, so it must be legit. It makes me think, are we creating ripples or just splashing around in the kiddie pool while the big wave machines are churning out of sight? Let's splash some cold water on our faces and remember, if you wouldn't shout it from the rooftops without that sweet sponsor paycheck, maybe put down the megaphone and step away from the ledge.
Well, Simon, you ever watch those speed runs of video games online? It's all smooth moves until they hit the glitch that makes everyone groan. That's us with these eco-gadgets, racing to save the planet but face-planting on the hidden cost of being trendy. We're all in this pixelated boat together, my friend, influencers and followers alike, sometimes nailing the jumps, other times hitting every digital banana peel on the track.
Absolutely, Joe. Navigating this eco-chic speedrun is like a dance-off. It's about the next move, not just the flashy footwork. Makes me wonder, what's our role in guiding this ship through the digital sea? It sure ain't about chasing the high score. It's deeper. We're all crew members here, influencers, followers, heck, even skeptics. So the real joystick twiddling question, how do we level up to keep those ripples rolling without sinking the console? Let's hit pause on that thought. What's tickling your brain now, Joe?
You're spot on with that ensemble cast approach to our eco-challenges, and it's kind of like what's happened with sponsored content. Think about it. There was a time when #ad was the new kid on the block nobody knew how to dance with. Remember those early days? It started out like an underground music scene, brands partnering under the table with influencers. But as the crowd got hip to it, the beat had to change. Cue the birth of the shashed ad revolution, where transparency became the headliner. Suddenly, everyone from cosmetic juggernauts to fast food giants is crafting their digital mixtape filled with subtle tracks of persuasion. Now we're at a point where regulatory DJs from the FTC are spinning in guidelines to ensure no one switches the record undetected. So let's take this wave-back stroll down hashtag lane and marvel at how hash ad went from wallflower to social media prom queen, transforming the advertising dance floor as we know it.
Totally, Joe. It's like watching a reality show unfold from season 1. You got these early adapters, right? They're the pioneers, pairing up with brands behind the scenes, low-key slipping in product placements. No hash ad, no sponsored, just smooth sailing guerrilla marketing. Then boom, more eyeballs, more screens, and suddenly you can't swing a meme without hitting a sponsored post. The game changed. Enter the big players, celebrities, big-name brands, all teaming up in the social media coliseum. Kardashians throwing ad like confetti at a parade. It was bedlam. And let's not skim over the plot twist when the FTC gatecrashed the party, laying down the law. Influencers have to declare their sponsorships clear as day, or they risk ending up in advertising jail. No passing go, no collecting $200. What started with a whisper became a jet engine roar, huh? From word of mouth to word of hashtag, we've seen the whole narrative arc of these digital ad tales. Who would have thought a pound sign followed by 2 letters could wield such power?
It's crazy how something as simple as that pound sign evolved to redefine celebrity endorsements, right? Nowadays, our morning scroll is like reading a high society gossip mag. Every turn is another ad saga. It's not just about what's trending anymore. It's about decoding the subtext in those captions. Ad is like the plot twist no one saw coming but now can't unsee, sort of the double agent of social media.
Kind of makes you miss the days when the only ads we had to decode were in the back pages of comic books, right? Now it's like playing detective with every scroll. Was that a genuine smile or just an ad smile?
I hear you, Simon, but don't get nostalgic for sea monkeys and X-ray specs just yet. Those comic book ads were child's play compared to the high-stakes poker of today's ad game. Sure, influencers' smiles might as well come with price tags now, but let's not kid ourselves. We've traded decoder rings for data analytics. Plus, remember when hidden ads would play it cool in pop songs or TV shows? Undercover marketing was a thing long before Instagram sold us dreams and square photos. However, the ad evolution isn't all smoke and mirrors. At least that hashtag is giving us a heads up. Like it or not, we're window shopping through our feeds nonstop. Transparency may have entered late into the storyline, but it's doing its part to keep things honest-ish.
You know, Joe, this conversation takes me back to my uncle's dusty old antique shop. As a kid, I'd wander in there, and Uncle Mark had this knack for storytelling. He'd lift a relic, maybe an old tin toy soldier, and weave tales about its history and adventures. Each piece felt like the real deal because he believed it. His stories sold. Now stick with me here. That shop's not unlike our social media feeds today. Everything's displayed on virtual shelves with their own narratives, and it's up to us to figure out which have genuine stories and which are, well, just another sale pitch. Uncle Mark was upfront about it, tagged each item with its true tale, no fluff. Imagine if every ad came with that level of genuine backstory, knowing exactly what you're walking away with. That's character. Tough finding that authenticity nowadays. Among the hashtag hustle, we could sure use an Uncle Mark guiding the way.
Simon, Uncle Mark's shop is a metaphor for honest marketing that connects, just like early sponsored content used to do. The authenticity in his storytelling is the vibe we're craving. Now here's the lowdown for our curious listeners. The real seismic shift elicited by social media wasn't just the outreach. It transformed the connection between advertiser and audience. Back in the day, advertising was a one-way street, a billboard shouting at you, no response needed. But enter platforms like MySpace, Facebook, then Instagram. Suddenly, brands could have conversations with consumers. They clued in quick. The persuasive power was colossal, so they started sliding into feeds as stealthy ads, pretending to be just casual mentions. It all changed when the FTC set their sights on this newfound Wild West. They updated their endorsement guides around 2009, addressing this digital frontier, making it clear you've got to disclose those partnerships. Hashtags like #ad sponsored took flight because transparency became not only cool but a legal must-do. It's an ongoing battle, ensuring every relic on display has its genuine tin soldier story. So there's your blast from the past, mixed with today's pivot toward clarity. Each post essentially tagged with its true tale, no matter how deep in the digital vault it sits.
I'll bet you a vintage tin soldier that half the people using ad don't even know what FTC stands for. Talk about being in it just for the gram.
Ha! True that. Most are just playing tag, literally. Ads become like a mask at a masquerade ball. Everyone's wearing one, but few know why the party started in the first place.
Well, part of me wonders if it's all just ad mandatory at this point. Like wearing socks. It's not for style anymore. It's because you have to or your shoes stink. The history behind it? Who cares? Joe, can you imagine scrolling down and seeing hack ad because the law says so? That'd be the day when marketing directors pack their bags and say, well, folks, it was a wild ride. But seriously, are we being transparent or just ticking boxes here? Is the spirit of Uncle Mark still alive, or has it become just another T&C we don't bother reading?
Simon, ticking boxes, spot on. Makes you wonder, do audiences prefer the blatant ad because we have to, or are we craving that raw, authentic connection from influencers like we got in Uncle Mark's tales? What do you think? Is genuine storytelling dead and buried in the marketing landscape?
Honestly, Joe, if we're pitting blatant versus genuine, my money's on real deal sponsorships that echo Uncle Mark's charm any day of the week. Sure, slapping an ad on it calls out the elephant in the room, but when there's an honest backstory where the influencer actually digs the product, that's gold. Starts feeling less like a sales pitch and more like you're grabbing coffee with a buddy who just can't shut up about their new kicks.
All right, grabbing coffee with a pal who's jazzed about their fresh sneaks is cool and all, but let's not kid ourselves. Many influencers are soapboxing products they've never even worn outside the gram. Do they really care? Or did the cash register cha-ching their tune? Listeners, get this. It matters when someone tells you about kicks they've actually run a mile in, compared to just posing for some glam shots. When you sniff out that genuine enthusiasm, that's when you hit follow or smash that buy button. It's not the influencer with the most likes who wins. It's the one who can make us believe they'd rock those sneakers even if there wasn't a shiny penny in sight. Ain't that the real competitive edge we're all hunting for, Simon?
Spot on, Joe. It's the age-old hustle. Cash is king, but nothing beats real passion. That's the influencer I'm throwing my like at.
You know, I had this buddy back in college, a total sneakerhead. This guy could talk your ear off about the special edition Jordans in his collection. We'd hit the streets, and people would stop him just to chat kicks. It wasn't for clout or cash. He was just living his truth. Fast forward, he starts a blog, sharing those same stories but with pictures now, still all passion. Brands notice and want him repping their gear. Thing is, he stayed picky, only teamed up with brands that fit his genuine vibe. His followers skyrocketed because it never felt like a sales pitch. It was always about that love for sneakers. And family, his vibe, that's what we're seeking online. Pull that off, and likes are just the cherry on top.
Ah, guess it's that time again. Big shout out to all of you tuning in. You guys make the Infinite Podcast the wild ride that it is. Remember, keeping it real is what it's all about. And tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, we're back to stir up some more chaos. Catch you then.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay real and don't miss tomorrow's dose of chaos. Keep it locked here. Infinite Podcast signing off.
Man, Joe, that story hits home. It's like when you find someone who's all in on their passion. It's infectious, makes you want to be part of that movement. That buddy, he's the real deal. We're after that genuine connection where it doesn't just end with a swipe up to buy. It feels more like joining a community, a family even, when influencers keep it as real as your sneakerhead pal. It's magic. That's what makes our Infinite Podcast fam so special too, right? We're all about keeping the chaos 100% authentic.